All right, I'm Jeff. That's my friend Jason. Hey, Jason.
Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are
Been a
you?
while. It's been a while. I'm good. It's been a while.
Yeah, we missed a few episodes. Life got in the way. Mother Nature got in the way. A whole bunch of stuff got in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you update us on your perspective on what it's like to live through a hurricane, man? Got a lot going on.
Yeah, man. So first time being in a natural disaster to that degree. And I'll be honest, I was not there for about half of it because I was actually traveling. And so my wife was home with the dogs. I was supposed to fly back the morning of the hurricane, which was, I think it was the 27th, September 27th.
Okay.
From New
Yeah.
York City. I was there for work and then supposed to fly back early Friday morning. It was like supposed to land at like 9 or 10 or something like that. Get to the airport, canceled. I'm like, okay, all right, so we're not flying today.
Yeah.
And then basically the hurricane hits that Friday, totally wipes out Western North Carolina and other places too. But
Yeah.
I live in West North Carolina, so that's what we're going to talk about. Total
Just outside of
information
just outside of Asheville,
just outside of
right?
Asheville. Yep,
Okay, because
southeast of it,
Asheville's
just
been
outside of the city, up in the mountains.
yeah, because
Total
Asheville's been all over the
information.
news.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I think Asheville gets a lot of the coverage because it's kind of the predominant city in the Western North
Sure.
Carolina. But there were other areas very close by that were hit just as hard, if not worse. Places like Swannanoa, which is just northeast of the city. And so
Okay.
it's like basically like if you're going to go east from Asheville, there's two roads. One is like northeast and it kind of goes through the mountains and then to Charlotte, and then southeast, which is where we are, that goes to like Lake Lure and Chimney Rock and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The town of Swannanoa, like almost gone. Like anything around the river, flooded, washed downstream, like everything. We were up in the mountains. We lost power, water, internet, and cell service for a long time. So I was supposed to land Friday. That was the 27th. Didn't hear from my wife until late Saturday night. And that was because of Apple's satellite text messaging started working.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so it was probably like midnight. And I was texting her throughout the day, like, hey, what's going on? Everything okay?
Yeah.
So I just couldn't get it. And I was still stuck in New York City because flights into Asheville were canceled for obvious reasons, at least at that point to me. So yeah, we didn't. So it took a week for the power to come back on. We actually had stable power a week later. I would say like that Friday was like, okay, power seems to be a good situation. Internet didn't come back up until Sunday. So what's today? The 20th, the 13th.
Uh-huh.
So almost 3 weeks without any internet at home. Still no cell service that works, with any sort of regularity up in the mountains.
As
So
of right now.
again,
So still.
as of now, as of the 20th, we are 3 weeks, 4 weeks almost out, and still no cell service. Now it's better than it was, but the cell
Yeah.
service still doesn't reach the house. And then water didn't work either, and that just started to flow Thursday. So today's Sunday the 20th. What would that be, like 3 days ago? But we're still under a boil order, which means basically water's flowing, but it's not safe for consumption. You can shower with it, and you can wash dishes if you provided you use like bleach and kind of other things like that. But yeah, no running water. Basically, 3 full weeks without running water, no running water and no internet or no connectivity. So what I would have to do is I would drive basically like down the mountain into town somewhat to try and get cell signal. And so I was doing meetings from my car, outside of like a cell tower, mobile cell tower that T-Mobile had set up, right? Things like that. So there was a lot of response to this thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when the hurricane hit, Asheville was completely cut off from the world. Like every single road coming into the area was either flooded, damaged and destroyed by water and like crumbling down the mountains, landslides, trees down, like everything was blocked. So really the only way into the city area was through the air. So helicopters, the crazy planes that would, try to land there and stuff like that. And so everything was kind of shut down basically for 3-4 days where people just couldn't get in or out. There are still a lot of people trapped on their property because a lot of properties in the area it's mountainous and there's a lot of streams and
Sure.
rivers, a lot of little bridges where people cross a little bridge to like get to their house, right, or their little neighborhood, or something like that. A lot of those bridges are gone. And so there's people who
Wow.
can't cross that, and they have to figure out how to like cross little bridges, and well, there's some worse than others. There was a huge landslide at the top of I-40 that stretches basically east-west at the
Uh-huh.
top of Old Fort. That's kind of the main road to Charlotte. That was down for a week and a half. That road, or that major highway, reads east to west and goes up through the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, into Knoxville. They're saying it's going to be
Uh-huh.
months before it's repaired to be able to get to Knoxville, because if you look at pictures, like half the road is gone, literally like swept
Sure.
off the side of the mountain. Crazy stuff. Yeah, so it has been a very challenging time, for really just Western North Carolina in general. We came out relatively unscathed. Our house is fine. Wife, dogs, all that is fine. We had a piece of
Yeah.
siding come loose. In the grand scheme, like, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
We had a couple trees down our
Sure.
property. We actually had, there was a lot of wind that came through last week, and we had another tree fall last week. And it was actually kind of close to the house, but fell
Uh-huh.
away from the house, which was great. So I flew my little drone to like see what happened. And yep, sure enough, there's a tree that, if it had fallen the other way, would have hit our house, but it didn't. It hit the other way. And we're talking
Wow.
like healthy trees. Like, sure, there's a lot of dead trees down, stuff like that, but we're talking like massive, thick trunks,
Like old, yeah,
pulled
old 100-year-old
pulled up
trees.
from the
Sure.
root. Yep, and they are thrown all over the place. Nuts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean,
but
what is there to say? I mean, I've seen, your wife, her posts. I mean, she's advocating for any help that she can get. I I commend her for basically putting herself out there. She's been out there in tears. God, I've never seen anybody cry at the sight of running water before, and she did, and I can understand
yeah,
now. I can understand why. And out there, collecting supplies and distributing supplies, and basically advocating for those who just are shut out from the world right now. And I give her a lot of credit, man. That is tough work, I'm sure.
we talked an awful lot about like the world today, and this thing has happened to the area. I mean, just a baseball bat to the entire map of Western North Carolina just got hit with just sheer destruction on a scale that I haven't seen before in my life. The entire western side of the state, and other states too, right? It's not like only Western North Carolina had this, but
Yeah,
just
right.
a wide range of area was hit. But I have seen the best of humanity in these last like months. People coming together, helping each other. Our little neighborhood having a barbecue to cook all the meat that was thawing in people's refrigerators, right? Frozen stuff
Wow.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And restaurants in downtown Nashville say, all this food's going to go bad. We've got to cook it. Come on down. Get food. There has, for the most part, there really hasn't been a supply issue. FEMA was there almost immediately. Red Cross is, and these folks are still there, right? We're here a month almost later. The federal response, the state response, the local response, volunteers have been all over it. It's never going to be perfect. And there's a lot of people who are still having trouble, especially in remote areas that are really hard to get to.
Right.
But for the most part, it's not like it's not like we didn't have water, didn't have food, anything like that. We were still fine. Our house is okay. Like I said, a lot of people aren't. I mean, I think the biggest flood ever. So there's an area of Asheville called the River Arch District. It's kind of the west side of
Okay.
the city on the French Broad River, which is one of the few rivers in North America that flows from north to south. And so it flows and runs along this area. It's a kind of an arts district, a lot of artists, music, restaurants, greenways, kind of things like that. And that entire area was basically under 20 feet of water.
Oh my
Which
God.
is absolutely nuts. If you look at the devastation, most of the devastation of the city of Asheville is there. Like that entire area, we drove through it yesterday, actually. And it's places that we've gone, White Duck Taco, which we went to.
Yeah.
Our first,
Yeah.
meal when we first moved there. Parks, this entire like artist enclave place called Marquee that had like a bunch of really cool like art, just kind of local stuff, gone, like flooded. Tractor trailers wrapped around trees, like just stuff everywhere. It is crazy how much the flooding caused so much damage there.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, in my- I don't have any history with any of this stuff, but usually I associate hurricanes with
Mhm.
like the coast of Florida, or
Yeah.
like obviously Hurricane Katrina with the coast of New Orleans. You think it's right off the ocean or right off the Gulf, and I'm sure you can. How would inland be prepared for anything like this, right? I mean, I'm sure the folks of Asheville don't. I mean, you said it's not perfect. Well, of course, it's never going to be perfect. How could you be fully prepared for something like that?
Well,
I mean,
you're in Western North Carolina. You're in the mountains.
hey,
It's one of the
exactly.
few areas of the U.S. that really doesn't have or hasn't had like major climate issues.
Right.
And the challenge is you get this giant, massive storm. They call it a 1,000-year storm. Never been a storm this strong, never hit the area, at least in
Sure.
the last 1,000 years or whatever. And what do you expect when that kind of stuff hits? You're in the mountains, so of
Yeah.
course trees are going to fall. Of course rivers are going to flood, and the infrastructure isn't meant to survive a hurricane. 400 miles inland, causing that much damage over such a wide area, and the mountains make it difficult to traverse and to get
Sure.
help in and get help out and stuff like that. So yeah, and then you get a second hurricane, right, that comes through. So that was Helene, and then Milton comes along,
Yeah.
batters Florida. I'm in Orlando right now, and everything seems to be fine. I know the hurricane went right over the top of this place, and there was a lot of damage as well there, right, and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. But it's almost like, okay, they're used to this, right? They're prepared for it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. But now we
Well,
have
it's
running
just
water, so I
yeah.
was able to take a shower this morning before I flew. I smell a little bit like chlorine, but hey, I'll deal with it.
No, it's good. It's just interesting to hear you say, you're without internet, you're without connectivity and all that. And, some people would say, oh, first world problems, right? But
It is, yeah.
you figure out that we have, as a society, have come to depend on this stuff. And when it's not there, it's a problem. It's a real problem.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
so
it made it really difficult to get anything done because you don't know
I get
what's
you.
going on. Yeah,
I get you.
yeah.
Well,
Internet is a utility at this point, and probably should be treated as such. Just like water
yeah.
and electricity.
Well, I guess all I can say is, hey, anybody who's listening, yeah, the issues are real. So if you can help, pick up the phone, reach out, donate. We could use it.
Yeah, and it's going to be a long recovery for the area. And Barb and I actually went out to eat for the first time last night to a local restaurant that opened up specially. Kind of
Sure.
like there's some of the restaurants that are starting to open up, and there's water just got turned on. There's a lot of rules in place, right, for stuff like that. But it was good to
yeah.
actually go downtown, have a meal at one of our favorite places, Karate, and it's like a tapas type place. Talk with the people there, see how they're doing, and kind of learn more stories and stuff like that. Like I said, I've seen a lot of the good in humanity over the last couple of weeks. Just people
That's
taking care
good.
of each other, and yeah, there's been some knuckleheads out there. There's a lot of politicization of, oh, FEMA's not there, and like
Sure.
bullshit. Literally, the choppers are flying over my house every 5 minutes, and I'm staring
Sure.
at a truck that has tons of water, right? And there's people who are making threats against FEMA. I mean, Asheville's a very blue area, but everything around
Yeah.
it is deep red, and so there's a
Yeah,
lot
of
of
course, yeah.
distrust back and forth. And but for I would say 95% of the people have been doing good by their fellow humans, which is great to see.
Well, it's good to know that people can put their political differences aside and come together to, take care of, humanity, if you will, And I know we got the election 2 weeks away, and frankly, I can't wait for it to be over. Regardless of who wins, I'm tired of all the hate speech. I'm tired of all the jokes, all the, this person's an
Oh, you
idiot.
don't want to
This
hear about
person's
Arnold Palmer's massive, what?
stupid. No, I'm tired of all of it, to be honest with you. We were talking about this with some friends last night, just saying how far removed we are from classy politics of, Ronald
This-
Reagan and John McCain and, even guys like Al Gore and Michael Dukakis, as people, who would disagree and have issues. And, campaign against one another, but they would do it with
Yeah.
class, and
Yeah.
you just don't see it anymore, unfortunately. A lot of times from either side. And I think, we all laugh at it. Obviously the Saturday Night Live is all over it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, some spot on impressions of Biden, Kamala, Trump, Vance. I mean, these impressions are hilarious, and they're all right on with what they're talking about as far as making fun of those poor people. But I'm just ready for it to be over, regardless of who wins. And it's going to be tight, but we'll move on. Whichever way it goes, we'll move on. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm ready for it to be done too. I was going to go vote yesterday, but I was tired and took a nap instead. So I'm going to go vote next Saturday instead.
There you go.
And get in early. Because I travel a lot, so it's kind of hard for me to vote on election day anyway.
Sure.
So you should just go early anyway, get it done with, and hopefully, beat the Lions. But there's been a lot of lines in the area too. So
I bet.
turnout has been good. But yes, hopefully we can get back to normal, respectful politics instead of the garbage that we've been involved with last 8 years or so.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a first-time voter in my house this time around, and he's pretty excited about it. So I do. Yeah, my youngest, he's 19, and he's anxious to participate. And it's cool. It's cool to see all three of my boys excited about it. So yeah, good.
Well, good. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few.
So
I don't say one of the few countries, but one of the things in this country that we should not take for granted.
Absolutely,
is the ability
one of the things
to
that makes this country great. Yep.
So get out, vote,
good,
and all that good stuff.
Absolutely, participate.
Why we haven't been able to record a couple weeks because of stuff going on, but I did get a chance to watch some of the Bears games, and my goodness, Caleb Williams, he is looking more and more like the real deal every week.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch him evolve into a real NFL quarterback, which the Bears, despite what you think of, Justin Fields, he was benched tonight in favor of Russell Wilson. Well, I can't figure that one out, but we'll get to that later.
Enough.
It's exciting to see, or to be able to be excited about the Bears again, because it's the first time in a long time.
Yeah. And they're winning, and they're not squeaking by like they have the last couple of years when they would barely beat a bad team, right? They beat up on Jacksonville in London. Who did they play for that? They beat up somebody before that too.
They beat up Carolina.
Which they should have done it anyway, but they did it.
They spanked two teams very hard that they should have, right? I mean, first time since 1956 that they scored 5 offensive touchdowns in a game in back-to-back games. I mean, think about that. But that's what you're supposed to do against teams like that, right? I mean, the last 3 games, they played the 30th, the 31st, and the 32nd ranked pass defense in the NFL at that time. But they did what they were supposed to do against those teams. So while you could say, oh, yeah, those teams suck and all that stuff, but they did what they were supposed to do. So that's
the difference this year, is they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're beating the team they're supposed to be beating, and they're beating them soundly, right? If this had been a couple years ago, it would have been nail biters, or we would have found a way to lose these games that we should have won. And you can argue we've won some games that we probably shouldn't have won too. So it kind of cuts both ways. But if I look at, Caleb Williams has been doing great, and he keeps getting better every game. Now he's going to be in for some rough waters here with some better teams, but it'll be good to see the progression against more quality teams.
Yeah, I think the Commanders game coming up next weekend, flex to the national game in the afternoon, which is exciting, is going to be a good measuring stick for where they're really at. Because after that, they play, I think it's Arizona, New England. I'm not sure in what order, but week 9, it comes calling, because you're talking Green Bay and the entire division schedule coming your way, the last 6 out of 8 games. So, and as we know, the NFC North is tough.
Crazy.
I mean, Jeff, their Bears are 4-2 and are still considered to be in 4th place in the division and last. You got Detroit at 5-1. You got Minnesota, who lost their first game of the season to Detroit today. They're at 5-1, and Green Bay, beat Houston, who beat the Bears. They're 5-2. So, and then you got the Bears at 4-2. Yeah, it's tough.
Best division in football. I mean, record wise.
Yeah, and it's not even close. To be honest with you, I mean, every team in that division has a positive point differential of over 40. Um, yeah, it's crazy how good that division is playing so far.
I just feel like it's not
So
sustainable to have a division that good. I mean, this lays the groundwork for like every team in the NFC North making the playoffs, which would, I mean, that would never happen,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's possible.
I guess
It's not going to happen.
mathematically it's possible, but yeah, you're right. It's not going to happen. But you know, every team in that division is going to run through the gauntlet towards the end of the year as they play each other. Yeah, it's gonna be tough to get out of there and get a playoff spot. And even the Bears, yeah, they're 4-2. They could be. Arguments to be made. They could be 3-3. They could be 5-1. They could be 6-0. I mean, have they really been tested yet? You know what I'm saying? And we'll see. We'll see. But all arrows point up in my mind for them. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's exciting to see. Ride the wave as long as we can until they start to suck again.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk. I mean, Caleb, man. I mean, 65% completion percentage. He's got 1,300 yards. Got 9 touchdowns, which is only 2 short of the Bears rookie record. 100+ passer rating in the past 3 games. Again, Rams, Panthers, and Jags will do that for you. He still, I think, leads the league in being sacked with 20. He's lost 137 yards on those sacks. That is a lot. They are still only averaging 3.7 yards a carry in the run game. It's getting better, but that was due to some early struggles.
Yeah, Dodger's has come alive here the last couple of weeks too.
He has. A couple other bright spots. You've got 5 guys, 5 playmakers on that offense that can do something for you, right? You got Moore, you got Odunze, you got Allen, you got Kmet, you got Swift. All of those guys in the past game have 20+ targets. All of those guys have at least 15 catches, and all those guys have over 100 yards receiving for the season. So what does that tell you? It tells you Caleb is starting to spread the ball around big time, which is good. That's a lot of guys to keep happy, right? You got 7 different offensive guys who've scored a touchdown, and Caleb Williams is not one of them. He has not run for anything as far as touchdown goes in the regular season. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff. And then
even the 60-year-old Mercedes Lewis has a catch.
How about that? Yeah. No kidding. He's what, 41, I think? Oldest player in the NFL, old. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, quarterbacks are used to playing, I think at this age now, but a tight end at 41, right. I mean, that's nuts. No, is he really playing though? Is he really just kind of a roster slot? He's kind of a glorified blocker, I think, right? This place are just position player.
Yeah, I think he does more blocking. I think he's more known for his leadership in the offensive meeting room than anything. That's what we hear about in Chicago.
He's had 1 target this year.
Yeah, exactly. But he caught.
He's one catch for 2 yards. Right, he's tied with Bayless Jones. 1 catch for 3 yards. Or no, 8 yards.
Bayless hasn't been active since game number 1. So, and that's a good thing. We don't need him. We don't need Bayless to see the field ever again, in my opinion.
An addition by subtraction.
Yeah, right. I mean, Cole Kmet last week, first NFL player ever to win the Special Teams Player of the Week as a long snapper. Was pressed into duty. They did miss. Did they miss an extra? No, they missed a field goal, I think it was, but I don't think that was his fault. But I think he's the first guy ever to long snap and score 2 touchdowns in the same game. So pretty cool.
Setting all kinds of weird records.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But they do have, issues. They did end the Jacksonville game with 3 defensive starters on the secondary out. I mean, Brisker didn't even travel to London.
Yep.
And Stevenson hurt himself in practice, I think, Thursday before the game, and then Kyler Gordon got hurt during the game. So I don't know where those 3 guys stand after the bye week. I'm sure we'll know more on tomorrow at practice, and we'll see where those guys are at because they definitely need them going forward. But we'll see.
I mean, as good as Caleb Williams has played, the defense has been the reason they're even in these games.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, yeah, they've given up 108 points in 6 games, which is third best in the NFL, and tops in the NFC.
And they're getting
as of right
takeaways
now.
Yep.
Yeah, plus 6, 13 takeaways versus 7 giveaways. And the 13 are third best in the NFL. So, and that's with the bye week happening. That includes today. So, yeah, good stuff, man. If you're a Bears fan, you have to be absolutely thrilled with what's going on.
Hey, I'm happy. I haven't followed the Bears this closely in a decade, despite being a Bears fan and a Niners fan, obviously. But there hasn't been that much to cheer about. I mean, there would be little flashes like, all right, great. We just drafted Justin Fields. Great. And then turns out we can't do anything with him. Oh, we drafted Mitch Trubisky before him. Can't do anything with him either. You have to go back to Jay Cutler when he was slinging the ball around. And Jay Cutler got his own problems right now.
Yeah, Jay had a rough
in
week,
Tennessee.
But yes, he did. Of his own doing. But the
don't drink and drive, kids.
Don't drink and drive, and if you're gonna drink and drive, leave your loaded guns at home.
And don't try to go away. And then don't try and try to pay $2,000 to whoever you hit to not call the cops.
Lots of bad
$2,000 seems kind of low. Is that what he had in his pocket or something? Come on, man.
Come on, Jay.
I feel like if he had made the appropriate offer, they're like, all right, let me think about that for a second.
That cop probably said, I don't get out of the car for $10K, less than $10K.
Right.
So, But, poor Jay Cutler. Well, not really. But the question becomes for the Bears, do they do anything at the trade deadline?
Well, I saw a headline that they might be doing something, but I don't know what they would do and who would they do it with.
2 names that I've seen, and I think one of them is kind of pie in the sky type stuff, is Max Crosby from Vegas. They're 2-5. They obviously just gave away Devontae Adams for next to nothing because Devontae wanted out. They have not much to play for. So, can you pry Max Crosby away to play across Montez Sweat? That'd be pretty cool. He does have a massive salary cap hit, so they would have to do some things on their roster to make that happen. The other one is Quentin Nelson, guard for the Colts, who was very highly touted coming out of college from Notre Dame.
If he's why is he available though?
Again, the Colts aren't playing real well. They're kind of in a rebuild with Richardson, and he's been in the league for a few years now. And, the Bears are kind of staying away from Nate Davis, who apparently is garnering trade interest of his own. I mean, God only knows why, because he's terrible. But, the Bears have benched him in favor of Aaron Pryor, who has played pretty well. And then they also could shop Khalil Herbert, who really hasn't seen any carries in the past 3 weeks because they seem to be going with Swift and Roschon Johnson. So.
Yeah, and it's tough for him to crack the lineup at this point, especially the money they're paying Swift, right? I mean, it's almost like unless he gets injured or really just shits the bed, they're not going away from that. And Roschon's been good. I mean, he's their cloud of dust, 3 yards, fall forward.
Yeah, he's their short yardage guy, right?
Yeah.
He's their between the tackles guy, and Swift is their outside the tackles guy. So, I mean, Herbert might give you something on the kick return game, but they seem to like DeAndre Carter and haven't had an issue with him since replacing Carter with or after taking Jones out of lineup and putting Carter in there. So,
well, I'd be happy with an offensive lineman. They're good. I feel like teams have to be pretty crazy to trade offensive linemen, given how hard they are to find. They're almost as hard to find as a quarterback, really, because you need 5 of them.
I agree.
Or you can go, okay, well, at least we need 3. You can kind of get away with maybe a couple who aren't the best. But if you have a good one, I feel like those are the kinds of guys you typically don't see traded very much.
Right. No, I agree. It's they are tough, or they are hard to find for sure.
Well, if that happens, I'll be happy for that. Except I'm always cautious with the prices.
Yeah. I think the Bears, they still have Carolina's second rounder from next year. I forget what the deal is with. There's a kicker in the Fields trade. He's got to play a certain amount of games or something like that for the Bears to where the pick falls. I forget what it is, but that's why the Bears are keeping an eye on the situation because obviously Russell Wilson starting tonight, although he's not looking all that great, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
We'll
we should probably
see.
talk about that because I feel like Russell Wilson starting tonight is he's a starter. We paid him a bunch of money to come here. We kind of have to do it and see what we got.
Well, Mike Tomlin publicly said that he kind of went rogue on this one, or the rest of the coaching staff and the organization still wanted to stick with Fields. But Tomlin said, hey, we have this guy. He's finally healthy. I feel like we owe it to him and we owe it to our organization to see what he's got. So this might be a one-game deal. Who knows? I mean, Tomlin, they're 4-2. They seem to find a way just about every year. I don't think he's ever finished under 500. And this is like the 18th season as coach, which is crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, let's see. Russell Wilson's 6 for 14, 119 yards, 1 carry for 1 yard.
Okay.
So not great.
No.
Meanwhile, you got Aaron Rodgers on the other side. Woo. Ugh, forget him. But he goes out and gets richer with Devontae Adams joining the Jets, who's already got 3 catches. So they're going to get him involved. I feel like this is a Jets game to beat up on Pittsburgh. I don't know if the result would be different with Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to carve up that defense regardless. And it's not like quarterbacks play each other, right?
Right. And the Jets have been playing, they've underperformed all year, right? They were expected to be very good. They supposedly had a complete roster. I know there's been a couple of issues here and there, but now they basically are Green Bay East. And, Rodgers, as much as we all hate him, he can still play, obviously. So,
yep.
Although they are backed up pretty far right now. We'll see what happens here. But,
they're up 15-6, 2.5 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not seeing sparks from Pittsburgh. There really hasn't been any really exciting place.
No, there's not a whole lot to get excited about if you're a Steelers fan, to be honest with you. So,
well, I feel bad for Justin Fields, though. The kid did everything he needed to do. Takes into a 4-2 record, and then because of politics, essentially is on the bench.
Yeah, no doubt. How are you?
Now, he hasn't been great, but he's got a winning. His stats aren't fantastic, but he's got a winning record.
Right. Well, he's like your ultimate game manager, right? He's not going to light up the stat sheet, but he's not going to. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes with that team. They're very well coached. And they've got. It's not like they don't have guys. They have guys, but you're right. You're 4-2 and you get benched. I'd be upset by that. I think anybody would be upset by that, but. I don't know. Yeah, it's just some interesting stuff from the NFL. We talked about the Bears playing the Commanders next week. We're supposed to be the big Caleb versus Jaden Daniels matchup. Daniels goes down with a rib injury today. They don't know how long he's going to be gone, but the question now is raised. Juryman Marcus Mariota goes in and goes 18 of 23 for 200 yards and 2 TDs. The question becomes, is Daniel's success because of Daniels or is it because of the system?
I don't think you can do one without the other. I don't think it's fair to say that, look, Marcus Mariota is a journeyman quarterback for a reason. Right. But if he's in a good situation, sure, why not? And Jaden's is a rookie. Now he's had some brilliant plays. He's also had some knucklehead plays too, like a rookie will make. But if the Commanders didn't have the surrounding team around them, Marcus Mariota would be bad. So would Jaden Daniels.
Right. I agree. You're starting to see last couple of weeks Jaden Daniels kind of come back to earth a little bit. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't sustainable for what he was doing.
Right.
Historically, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's done everything that they've asked him to do. But, obviously, especially here in Chicago, it's Caleb versus Jaden, right? We had the number one pick. Everybody thought that Caleb was the answer. Caleb had a couple of rough games out of the chute. Jaden Daniels is outstanding from day one. And then it's like, oh man, we made the wrong pick. I think we're starting to see that the Bears made the right pick for them. Hopefully both teams made the right pick, right? I mean, and there's an argument for that to say, hey, Caleb's great for the Bears, Jaden Daniels great for the Commanders, and eventually Drake May becomes great for the Patriots. They've lost his 2 starts, but I mean, he's actually been pretty decent. I mean, Patriots are a lot further away from being any good than just Drake May. So,
well, it's been a weird year where teams that we thought were going to be good aren't, teams that we thought would be bad aren't, and then there's a whole bunch of mediocrity sort of in the middle. I mean, look at the Niners. I mean, they were, on paper they were one of the best teams, but they can't get out of a game without losing a big player. I mean, they lost Ayuk today. Yeah. He's done. I think torn ACL.
That's
they Debo keeps getting hurt. ACL.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and they had a chance in that game.
They did.
Purdy throws 3 interceptions, and he throws a bad interception in the end zone towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude, what are you doing? But man, that's a team that everyone kind of picked. Yeah, they're going to kind of run away at the NFC West, and probably should make the playoffs and should be at least in the title game.
Yeah, well, now
they're playing right now, no.
And they're minus McCaffrey too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, originally
McCaffrey,
he was going to be
Debo,
gone a week.
Yep. Ayuk is down.
Jennings.
Jawan Jennings is hurt. They've got Dre Greenlaw still on getting, recovered from injury from last year. I mean, that's a team that has really, really hit the injury hard.
Yeah, they ended the game today with receivers 4, 5, and 6 out there today. So it's tough. And what's too bad is, yeah, you're right. They had a chance to win today because I got to tell you, Mahomes he had a couple of flash plays today. He kind of flicks the ball here and flicks the ball there, but he hasn't had it that great of a year either. I know his team is 6-0. I know, they're obviously, I think they're the last undefeated team left, but he hasn't been all that great this year. He hasn't been Patrick Mahomes, so to speak, by any means.
Yes. Well, they haven't been as dominant as we've seen them historically, but they've also lost a lot of talent. I think, between losing, Tyreek Hill and some of the wide receivers they've had over the years, I think they've missed that speedster on the outsides that will help stretch the field, open up the middle for Kelsey. They don't have the running backs that they've had in the past, and yet they still win it, right? I mean, Andy Reid's a great coach. Mahomes is a great quarterback, and they're still finding ways to win. And that's what good football teams do.
Yes, I just think they've also had a lot of luck.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And they get calls sometimes because of who they are, right? I mean, but I think that can be said as like, okay, well, that's just an organization that has figured out how to win games even when they're not playing well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Andy Reid's the ultimate play caller, right? I mean, granted, and Mahomes is probably one of 2, maybe 3 QBs in football that can execute what Andy Reid calls on a daily basis. So, it is a dynasty, you could say. I mean, they're going for their 3rd Super Bowl win in a row, which I don't think has ever been done. And who's to say? I mean, it's hard to argue against the fact that they'll be there in the end, right? I mean, who in the AFC can beat them? Maybe Baltimore, maybe.
I mean, we thought Baltimore early in the season, but they haven't had.
Yeah, Buffalo
any splash.
Can't seem to get past. Yeah,
yep.
Buffalo can't seem to get past them. Joe Burrow and the Bengals can't seem to get past them. And I can't think of anybody else besides the Ravens who could maybe get there. So you'll probably. I think you'll still see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in February.
All right, let me throw something out here for you. If you were going to start, you get to pick 2 things. You get to pick a head coach and a quarterback to start your franchise next year. Who do you pick from one of the current crop out there? Or if there's an unknown coach or QB that you don't know about?
Yeah,
who's the coach and quarterback combo that you draft to start your franchise?
I can answer that pretty easily. I would take Andy Reid,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, and people are going to think I'm a homer. I would take Caleb
Yeah,
for the long term.
Mhm.
For the long
For the long
term,
term.
I would take Caleb. Yes.
Yes. I think it's a solid choice. I think, I feel like you got a couple of young upstarts, and then you've got the known quantities, right? The
Yeah.
Mahomes, Josh Allen, what's his name, Herbert, and San Diego, right? Some of those guys out there. But yeah, I like Caleb. I like Andy Reid too. I think that'd be a great combination. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. I think Caleb is ascending as a quarterback. I mean, we haven't seen, you know, a stinker as far as, him making a ton of mistakes, right? Yeah, he made them in the beginning, but now he's established himself in the league a little bit and he's making the throws that he didn't make in the beginning of the year. He's going through progressions that he didn't do in the beginning of the year. Um, he still is overthrowing guys once in a while, but not nearly as much as he did before. And
Yeah.
I just think you're seeing a guy mature before our eyes into a potentially, franchise QB that we all thought he would be.
Yeah. And
Or
still hope that he will be.
yeah, no doubt.
I mean,
No
we're
doubt.
what, 6 games into it, and so far so good, but 6 games, you don't know. I mean, I hate to say it, but look at like a Tua Tagovailoa, right? You can get hit by the injury
Yeah.
bug, and the Bears have so far avoided that, but Chicago is no stranger to that. Look at Derrick Rose, right? I mean, we were all in on Derrick Rose and the Bulls, and then he hurts his knee and he's never the same. And we lose a
Yeah.
decade of basketball basically because of all the things that went around the investments made to build around Derrick Rose.
Yeah. Speaking of Derrick Rose, I think while you were on hiatus, he announced his retirement from the league.
I did. I saw that. Yeah.
16, he did last 16 years, which I don't think anybody would have thought was going to happen when he blew out his knee multiple times. But he went on to have a pretty serviceable career. But unfortunately for him, I think he's going to go down as the only NBA player to win an MVP and not wind up in the Hall of Fame, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hard for me to, how does he make the Hall? He didn't. He had like a couple good years with the Bulls, and it was exciting. And
Right.
then,
Yeah,
it's almost like,
but-
did he even start past that? Because I feel like he came off the bench for with the Knicks, and
He was a role player with the Knicks. He was a role player with, I think, he played with Memphis, I think, his last year. No, you're right. He was never the same. It's too bad. He was such an exciting player coming out of, where did he go to school? Memphis, I think, for 1 year. But I mean, he went to high school here in Chicago, and yeah,
he was electric.
God,
it was great
he
to
was-
watch. And at
Yeah.
a time when the Bulls really needed somebody to come along and kind of, give them some spark, here was a player we could rally behind. And I think basketball is easier to make an impact because there's, fewer players on the court. So if you get that generational talent, it's like, oh my gosh, we've got the guy. Let's build around him.
Yeah,
And then the guy goes out
let's-
and blows out his knee. Ugh, it just sucks.
It does. It does. Let's look at a guy, talk about impact on the league. I'm sorry, you can't say enough about him. And I'll admit, I'm a Jordan guy through and through. I grew up with, watching him, and I remember all the titles and all the wins and all the fun that was had here in Chicago. But how can you not respect LeBron's career?
You're crazy if you're not respecting LeBron James' career. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You can argue who's a better player, and I still fall into the Jordan camp myself. I think, if they were to play one-on-one, I think Jordan wins purely on the killer instinct that Jordan had.
Yeah.
And the sheer will and determination. But to say that they're like, you can make the argument of a 1A and a 1B or a number 1, number 2, right? Or whatever it may be. But yeah, dude, he's 40. He's playing with his son. I mean, and he's still a productive player. He's not as great as he used to be. That's for sure. He's definitely getting up there, but he's still a productive player.
I'm sorry. He's still the Lakers' best player in his 40s. He's their best
That says
player.
more about the Lakers.
It does.
LeBron,
it does. But, they've got Anthony Davis.
Yeah. But
and
even
and I'm
still, Anthony
sorry.
Davis hasn't really been the same since he went to the Lakers either.
True, true. But let's talk about Bronny James and how, yes, LeBron is playing with his son for the first time ever in the history of the NBA. But I think that's more of a favor to LeBron than anything. I
I
think, I don't
100%
know,
agree with you.
you've seen the highlights. I've seen the highlights. The whole world has seen the highlights. Bronny has no business playing in the NBA. Is he a good basketball player? Sure.
Is he an
Should have
NBA
stayed.
player? No.
No, no, he should have stayed in school at USC because he wasn't all that great at USC, to be honest with you. He should play in the G League, if anything. But they're not going to do that. There's too much attention put on, the fact that he's playing with LeBron. But it's ugly. I mean, the guy's shooting in the preseason. He's shooting 30% from the field and only 8% from three. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
NBA basketball. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, he's there for LeBron, and maybe
Yeah.
it's a little of a vanity play. I think is this LeBron's last year? Is he?
That's a
Hey,
great
one
question.
season and I'm good and I'm done.
The guy can still play, and I don't know if you watched it. You probably haven't, because I know you've been a little busy. But that documentary on Netflix, Starting Five, follows
Haven't seen it.
what is it? All through last year, followed LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Sabonis for the Kings, Jason Tatum, and I'm trying to and Jimmy Butler, right? What LeBron does to keep his body in shape. I mean, yeah, they say he spends like $1 million on his body. That guy has a routine every stinking day. Every minute of his day is accounted for as to what he does to keep himself in NBA shape. And I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing what that guy does. I watched the whole thing. I gained a whole new respect for him, not just as a player, but as a person. Showed him how much he cares about family. The guy stays out of the limelight as far as he's never had a controversy follow him for anything. Never gets bad press as far as what he does off the court. You have to respect all of that in his career.
I think his
So
his biggest press thing was probably this whole interview of taking his talents to South Beach. I know it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
I'm sure if he had to do that all over, he probably would not have done that.
Yeah.
That would be my.
I'm with you. But if that's the worst you can say about it, I mean,
Exactly.
dude's had a great career. What are you going to do? I mean, he came in as the most hyped player at 18, right, coming into the league, and he was everything and better than what people even thought.
He was
for a long time
the chosen one and met every expectation. In every single way. So
goes out, wins multiple championships, comes back to Cleveland, gets them one. I mean, it's nuts. So if you're a LeBron hater, I get it, but you can't be a hater because of his basketball ability and his career. Been stellar. You have no leg to argue on for that. You don't like the guy, fine, right? But it can't be because of basketball reasons.
Right. It's mostly, I think, the Jordan lovers that hate him because they can't stand that anybody's compared to, Michael Jordan. And I'll admit, it took me a while to get there, but when you look at the numbers and watch the games and watch the guy play and what he does at 40 years old, it's kind of hard to say, or hard not to say that, he's right there. And now his finals record is I mean, his finals record is nowhere near as good as Jordan, but
Yeah, I mean, Jordan was the best player for a long time, and we grew up in the area where Jordan was our guy, right? Now you got people who are growing up, and LeBron is their guy, and you're going to have people growing up that are going to be like whoever's next, right? That's just the way it is.
Yeah, right.
And this is the conversation that it's going to be had in 100 years. Will be, well, what about Jordan? Well, Jordan's Babe Ruth, it was a different era, right?
Yeah, right.
It's just the way it works.
It's like comparing Shohei Ohtani to Babe Ruth, right? I mean,
yes.
So,
hey, we didn't even talk about baseball, and we're 50 minutes into this already.
I was going to say,
I don't care about baseball, but I think I saw the Yankees are in, and Mets and Dodgers, I think, are still playing.
Yes. Well, yeah. Speaking of Shohei, his team, I believe, is right now up. They're up 3-2 in NLCS, right? So the winner goes to the World Series, play the Yankees. The Yankees advanced over Cleveland last night. And so I'll let you know the score in the inning here in a second. But so the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mets, the three teams that are technically left as of right now, are also the three biggest payrolls in baseball currently. So once
Just gotta
again,
spend money to make money, baby.
yeah, the argument is, are these teams buying championships or not? Is it a coincidence? Maybe. A lot of talent on all three of these teams. All three of the rosters are absolutely loaded. Um, for the baseball guys who watched last night's game, Juan Soto um, delivered when they needed it. Is going to prove that he's probably going to be the next 5 to maybe even $600 million player in baseball as he hits free agency this offseason. I don't think the Yankees are going to let him get away. He's too good. But we'll see.
$500 or $600 million. How long is a contract like that? Is that a 10-year contract?
You're talking. It depends. Depends on what a team is willing to sign him for. But he's still fairly young, I believe. So you're talking probably in 12, 13 years, maybe.
Okay. I mean,
longest baseball contract I've ever seen is Bryce Harper's at 12 years, which he's playing right now with Philadelphia. If you're willing to pay a guy until he's 40 in baseball, 40 as a position player in baseball is pretty old. And, those last couple of years, you're really rolling the dice on it. But you're investing in what you're going to get in the beginning of that contract. And Soto, honestly, is just now entering his prime. So, investing in a guy for that long might be worth it.
So if you've got a contract like that, and baseball is maybe the second most popular, maybe even third most popular sport in the U.S. right now, how do you justify a $600 million contract for a player on a sport that is not even the most, I know baseball is national pastime. Not according to ratings, more people watch football than baseball.
Like football's America's game. We know that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've got players in the NFL, quarterbacks typically, who are making $50 to $55 million a year, right? And they have 4 or 5 year contracts. I find it really interesting to see, okay, well, we're spending more money on a player in baseball for a longer time, because maybe the wear and tear of the body isn't as much as the NFL. But where are they coming up with that money? And why, what are we going to see? I guess what I'm saying is I would expect bigger contracts in the NFL, more of them, compared to what we see when you see like a baseball contract. It's like, oh, it's Bobby Bonilla Day. Yeah, we paid him $1 million a year for like 40 years, something like that. Right. You hear like $500 million, $600 million deals, right? Stuff like that.
You'd be surprised at how many Bobby Bonilla type contracts are out there. There's quite a few. But anyway,
if there's people who are going to pay for it, I mean, it's smart. You basically build an annuity. If you can't be trusted with your money all up front.
Yeah. Let's see. Real quick, Dodgers leading the Mets 6-3 at the end of the 5th inning. So. Yeah, in Game 6.
So it's possible to see a Dodgers-Yankees World Series.
Yes. But to answer your question, I think with baseball, and the main difference of baseball and the other sports is there is no salary cap in baseball. There is a luxury tax, meaning if you want to pay your guys a certain amount of money, you can pay whatever you want. But as soon as you hit a certain threshold, you do have to pay a tax on it to the league. Okay.
And where does that tax go?
That tax, I believe, goes to the league and then is then dispersed back to the rest of the team.
Like a revenue sharing type thing?
Yes. There is revenue sharing on National Baseball media contracts and things like that. Obviously, the teams make extra money for making the postseason. Players make extra money for making the postseason. It's paid out by the league. There is no salary floor. So basically in baseball, and this is a big argument that is had by, fans to say, hey, how come my owner won't invest in the team? Large market versus small market. I mean, you're looking at, a team like the Yankees. They play in New York City, largest, media market in the world, let alone baseball, versus, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who play in Pittsburgh, lower media market, not as many fans. Owner, theoretically can't afford the same type of payroll that the Yankees can, or the Dodgers, or the Mets. So you got two teams from New York and one from Los Angeles that are left, right? So there's a lot of discrepancy there. Teams that obviously don't pay as much in payroll or can't, quote unquote, afford to. Theoretically, I think they all can afford to because all these teams are owned by billionaires. It's a matter of do you want to spend it or not. That's the big argument here in Chicago with Jerry Reinsdorf, which we've talked about in previous episodes about Jerry Reinsdorf. He has the money, unwilling to spend it, right? So, and that's a big issue with Sox fans. But Yankees for years have bought every big free agent on the market at some point. And they won the American League for the 40th time in the history of baseball last year. They won what's called the American League pennant for the 40th time. The next highest in the American League is the A's franchise with 15. So, yeah, you can say that, yeah, they've bought titles, but they spent the money correctly over time, right? Dodgers, another large media market team, spend a ton of money. They're paying Ohtani $70 million a season. 70. Now, granted, 68 of that is deferred. So really, this year, they're only paying him 2. So you want to talk about Bobby Bonilla Day, there's going to be some big Shohei Ohtani days coming up in 10 years from now. But anyway.
Yeah, where's that 68 million go right now? Is it just, does it sit and gain interest or something like that? I mean,
well, that's all they owe him, right? Is the $2 million. So they're basically Shohei is giving the Dodgers time to make that money. Now, with Ohtani, you're getting pretty much every avenue to get to Japan ever, right? So obviously every Dodger game is shown in Japan. You're seeing every baseball fan who is an Ohtani fan in Japan now suddenly become an LA Dodger fan. They buy the swag, they buy the hats, they buy the shirts, they, all that stuff. Obviously, I'm sure there's a big TV contract that goes into Japan to show the games. They have to pay for that. So the Dodgers, and also, Ohtani also, I'm sure, does endorsement. You see his New Balance commercials on these playoffs and everything like that. They've potentially already made a lot of that money back. So it's an investment. Anytime you pay a player, it's really an investment, right?
So what is that's 68 million that's deferred? That's per year, right? 68 million is deferred per year.
Yeah.
What does Shohei get out of that other than a payday later? Is interest accruing on that? Because otherwise he's basically just giving a free loan and nobody does a free loan.
Well, at the end of the day, I think basically it's a free loan. Shohei wants to win. Shohei doesn't need the money, right? A lot of these guys, it's not about the money. It's about the market. And they'll tell you the high-paid players are trying to get as much as they can to make every player make as much as they can, right? Because the higher the ceiling goes, the higher the floor goes. And the guys that, maybe aren't as good, but still make the league, I need to make this amount of money to kind of set the market. Does that make sense? So, the lower paid
it seems a little bit altruistic to me.
It is, I know. But in Shohei's case, he has said, go ahead and defer my money so you can sign other players to this team that are going to help us win. If that makes sense.
So does that give him, do you think that gives him power then within the organization to veto or approve players coming in?
Maybe.
68 million reasons to do it.
Yeah. Do they call Shohei when they, in the off season next year, when they want to make a deal with somebody? Do they get his take on it? I'm sure they do, or they will. He's their best player. wouldn't you, as an owner or as a general manager, consult your best player and be like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think?" I would.
Yes, but there now you're running into the argument of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Yeah, and is
Well,
he the
Aaron
reason
Rodgers
Robert
and the
Saleh got
Jets.
fired?
Yeah, who knows? He claims he's not, but it's a lie. And it's Rodgers and the Jets. It's LeBron with the Lakers. It was Jordan with the Bulls. I mean,
Mhm.
of course these guys are consulted.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah,
because
they
at
should
the
be.
end of the
I think they
day,
should be.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
want to
because
keep
at
your
the end
best
of the
players
day,
happy. You want them to feel invested in the team.
yeah,
And,
hell
and
yeah,
chemistry is a big part of sports as well, for sure. But that's
no
an
doubt
awful
about
lot of
it.
money to defer, and for it to be a free loan. I mean, that's really altruistic. That's really nice guy area, and I
Yeah.
don't know if maybe I'm a little more jaded and
Well,
more pessimistic on that side.
yeah, I mean, again, it's not like Shohei needs the money. So, and to be,
Yeah, I guess if he's already
full
loaded, then who
disclosure,
cares, right?
yeah, full disclosure, this is the first contract to defer anything close to that in the history of sport. So,
Dude.
it's one of those, okay, we're going to do it. Let's see how it works, but I still think it's a wise investment for the Dodgers. I mean, if they win, say 2 or 3 titles over the next 10 years and like that contract, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
In my mind,
Okay.
in my mind.
Sure.
I mean, Dodgers are seeking pennant number 25. And actually if the Dodgers win, facing the Yankees in the World Series, this will be I believe it's the 12th time that the two teams have met each other in the World Series, which is the most that two teams have ever played each other. So kind of the first time I believe it's since 1981. So that from a historical standpoint, it's pretty cool. If you're a baseball history guy, which I am, I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's always good to see good teams going at it and to have sustained franchises that are willing to get into it.
Agree. The other side of this, if the Mets come back and win tonight and then somehow pull off tomorrow, now you've got what's called the Subway Series.
Yeah.
You got the Bronx versus I think the Mets play
City Field.
City Field. I think it's in Flushing Meadow or
you can see it from. I know you can see it from LaGuardia because
LaGuardia, right.
I see it all the time when I fly into there.
Yeah, and I believe you could take the subway actually from one stadium to the other, so that's why they call it the Subway Series. And that would be only the second time that's happened. That happened once in 2000. So that would also be pretty cool. I think. So I think baseball wins either way here, but I think Yankees Dodgers would definitely. I think that's what baseball's hoping for because I think that will garner the most attention. You obviously
the two biggest markets, right?
This is the two biggest markets. Plus, you get Japan along with Ohtani. And actually, the Dodgers have 2 players from Japan. They have Ohtani, and then they have a $300 million pitcher, Yamamoto, on the team as well. So, it's a big deal. So,
$300 million pitcher, a $600 million hitter, basically at this point in time, and it's just a shitload of money, man.
It's pretty.
Meanwhile,
crazy.
I'm happy that I got running water a couple nights ago.
I know. Again, first world problems. I know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, since we were last here, we talked about it. Ohtani did finish off the 50-50 season, 54 homers, 59 stolen bases. I doubt that will be repeated by anyone, let alone him, since he's gonna supposedly return to pitching next year. So he's not gonna play quite as much on offense as he did this year, so that'd be tough to match.
So if he comes back to pitching after taking, how when's the last time he pitched with regularity?
Oh boy, I want to say at least a year and a half ago.
Is he going to be good enough to warrant a roster spot as a pitcher?
I think
he's going to make the roster regardless, right? But does he make the rotation, or does he just stay as part of the bullpen or something?
But no, based on his history, he'll probably be their number 1 starter. As good of a hitter as he is, a lot of experts think he's a better pitcher. Relative
even
to
after
the
taking
position.
a year and a half off?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But let's say he's not.
let's say he's not a good. He just can't pitch anymore, and you're
Well, the
still paying
question
the guy
becomes,
$70 million
how
a year to hit.
long can he sustain this, right?
Okay.
Well, if he delivers you 50-50 seasons and you win the World Series, then he's worth every penny, right?
Well, yeah, but is he worth $70 million as a hitter, purely as a DH?
Apparently, that's the risk the Dodgers are willing to take.
Yeah, apparently.
Luckily, it's not your money; it's not my money.
Not my,
so
that's right.
I wish I had that kind of money to throw around, but I don't. So,
well, would you pay the guy $70 million to be a DH?
To be
You
just
got to
a
build
DH?
entire. Yeah. If he can't come back and pitch, I mean, that's what he is right now, right? He's a DH? He's not a position player.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, that's a good question. See, okay, if I'm a large market team like the Dodgers, and
You
that's
can
what
afford
it
to.
took to, yes, and I knew that that's what it was going to take to get him. Yes, I would. Now, it's easy for me to say that watching him perform the way he did this year, right?
Right. Yeah.
The Dodgers, I mean, they took a big risk, right? They didn't know they were going to get 50-50 out of him. I mean, God, his previous high for stolen bases before this year was like 18, But
Do you
I
think
mean,
he's clean?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big jump. I mean, that's like
it is.
who was that guy from Gonzalez, Alex Gonzalez, where it was for the Cubs, and then he goes to Arizona and hits like never hit more than like 8 home runs with the Cubs, and then he goes and hits like
Luis
40.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, Luis
Yeah,
Gonzalez.
Luis Gonzalez. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, it was Luis Gonzalez and Brady Anderson for the Orioles. They both had one monster 50+ home run season, and then never did anything after that. Which is
right.
Which is,
I mean,
strange.
Isn't that weird though to have a player where their previous best was 18 or whatever you said, and now the guy goes out and steals 59. Like,
now, granted,
it doesn't pass the sniff test for me.
I understand, but now this is the only year that he's only hit. So you have to wonder, was he always capable of it, but never did because he didn't want to risk the injury because he needed to pitch?
Did rule changes help with this too? Because didn't they do something for rule changes, like bigger bases or something like that?
Bigger bases, and they limit the number of times you could try and pick off. So maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that went into it, right? But
is steroids still a thing in baseball? Because I don't follow it, so I'm like naive asking these questions. But for me, the most exciting time of baseball was when it was Sosa versus McGuire in the home run contest. So,
right,
juice up, boys, because that's what I want to see.
Right.
But
well, I mean,
is it still a thing in the MLB?
It's not in the media. I know they test for it. But as you know, history has said, okay, yeah, they test for things. People always find stuff to beat the test, or people always find other products that that they don't test for. So it's like they test for it, you get something new, then they find out, and then they test for that. You find something new. It's a vicious cycle. So
it's like information security. You're always playing whack-a-mole. Yep.
Yeah. So I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know if that's still a thing or not. It's not talked about. So who knows?
Okay.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope. I hope
you want a fair playing field, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to watch. I mean, it beats watching what we got here going on here in Chicago. I mean, our beloved Sox did go on to lose 121 games, which is the most in modern day baseball since 1900, despite winning their last 5 out of 6 games. So yeah, they now hold that dubious distinction. So to be proud of, I guess.
Well, congratulations, you did it.
Yeah, we
mission accomplished. Yeah. Thumbs up all around for
everybody. Long rebuild ahead for them. Who knows what their team's going to look like next year, let alone 3 or 4 years down the road.
Didn't I see a headline that Reinsdorf might sell and the team might move?
Okay. He's also trying to get a new stadium because I guess
so he's playing the move card. Gotcha.
Yeah, guaranteed rate field. I guess it's the 5th oldest stadium in baseball. Granted, it's only like 30 years old. I didn't know teams needed stadiums that often, but I guess they do.
Well,
he's looking at.
Let's be honest. The sell as I will call it, because that's just what I know it is
Yeah,
the most lifeless stadium that I've ever been to. It is just this concrete monster with no personality, nothing.
yeah, I hear you. And I don't know how long it's been since you've been there. It's gotten better. They did some improvements to it, but I do get what you're saying. Um,
It's in a shitty part of town.
well, that's part of it. They want to move it a little more south, a little closer to the lake. They have a really nice area picked out called the 78 area, and the backdrop would be the Chicago skyline, which would be really sweet. It would any drawings or renderings that I've seen, it actually looks really awesome. But it's a question of how realistic is it, because obviously Reinsdorf wants the city to pay for part of it, you want the state to pay for part of it.
Plus, you got the Bears
And
also angling for a new
look at the
stadium
Bears
too.
trying to get a new stadium. They want to stay in Chicago as well. They want to build on the lakefront as well. So it's like it's
Is
almost
there
like
any
it's a
reason
race
why they
for
wouldn't build a multi-use stadium, have both the Bears and Sox play there?
I don't think the Bears are interested in that. I don't think either team's interested in that for whatever reason. I think the Bears would like a multi-purpose football slash something you could do. Concerts. You
Year
could
round
do
concerts, yeah.
other
Something
sports,
the dome.
year-round stuff. Potentially a Super Bowl type thing. Whereas the White Sox want an outdoor, middle of the summer. Bring the sky. I want to see the skyline in the outfield, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's the summer.
um,
The Chicago skyline.
yeah,
Mediocre to poor baseball. It's just it's all a night's work.
right. No, I agree. And yeah, and then you got, the other side of town, Wrigley Field, on the contrary, one of the coolest places to see a baseball game, in my opinion, even though I'm a Sox guy. I love going to Wrigley. I
It's a
think
great
Wrigley's
stadium.
fun. When that place is full, it's weird because obviously it's, regulation size, but when that place is full, you feel like it's homey in there because it's
Yeah.
older, but it's in the neighborhood. It's on the north side. There's no parking anywhere, so you gotta, basically walk the streets and do whatever.
Well, you got
But,
Wrigleyville that's sprung up around it, right? You got all the bars, the
yeah,
restaurants, the
the bars,
stuff to do before and after the game.
Cup ownership has purchased a lot of the properties around the stadium and built them up, and they have the rooftops, and now they've got all the cool scoreboards and all that jazz. So I think Wrigley's a fabulous place to go watch a game. But the Cubs have issues too, right? On the field, they need starting pitching. They've got a contract option for Cody Bellinger as a player option for $30 million, meaning if he wants to stay, he's going to get $30 million for the Cubs. If he doesn't want to stay and hit free agency, then $30 million comes off the books for them. So a lot of what the Cubs are going to do in the offseason depends on that. They're locked into D'Anthony Swanson for 5 more years. Good shortstop. Had an okay year. I don't know if he's worth as much, if he's playing to what he was paid, but they have him locked for 5 more years. Ian Happ and Seiya Suzuki, they're 2 corner outfielders, and I think Suzuki's going to actually be their DH next year, but they both have no trade clauses, so they couldn't even get rid of them if they wanted to, unless those guys waive the clause, and they need starting pitching. So, they finished, I forget where, they finished right around 500 in the middle of the pack, but they've got issues too in the offseason. They did sign arguably the best manager in baseball. That's what people seem to think, and Craig Counsell last year. So they like what they've done there. But yeah, they've got some decisions to make on the player side. So we'll see what they do this offseason as well. But
I haven't
if you're
followed
a Cup
baseball,
fan,
so
yeah. Well, if you're
I'm a
if
Cubs
you're a
fan,
Cup,
but it's like casual. Like I don't know.
yeah. Well, if you're a Cup fan, it's cool to see Anthony Rizzo heading back to the World Series for the Yankees.
That's true. Yeah, I'll cheer for that.
And if you're a Sox guy, you're looking at the potential of ex-Sox player Michael Kopech going to the World Series with the Dodgers, although he looked absolutely awful in the first inning of this game, but they got him out of there. So there is some Chicago connections potentially to the postseason as we move on. So
yeah, I'll cheer for Rizzo. I mean, part of the team that brought the championship. So yeah, why not?
Oh, fantastic!
I'll dine for another 100 years on that one.
There you go. Yeah, no, great Chicago Cub and just an all around great guy. So Be cool.
All right, an hour 15. What do you think?
I think we've caught up, man.
Yeah, I think we
I
have.
think I think we covered a lot. It's still 6-3 in the bottom of the sixth here in this game. So
Well,
uh,
meantime, the Pittsburgh Steelers have come back to take the lead over
I see
the
that.
Jets, 16-15.
I see that.
So
The
there's still a chance that we
the
might see an
Russell,
Aaron Rodgers loss, which is always a fun
the
time.
yes, the Russell Wilson led Steelers. We'll see. We'll
Yeah, he
see.
hasn't looked great. Every time I look up, he's dirting a ball at a receiver's foot, which isn't great. But a win is a win if he pulls it off somehow.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. I
Right?
know we haven't talked for what I think it's been 3 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like sports never stops. I mean, a lot's gone on. I mean, like I said, Derrick Rose retired. Pete Rose passed away.
Yep.
It's a connection to a lot of baseball fans' youths. The Bears,
Should he be in the
you
hall?
know, oh boy. As a player, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, God, we could spend another, 10 minutes on Pete, which, we'll save that for another time. But yeah, as a player, definitely.
Even though well, did he ever actually admit to doing it?
Yes, he did.
He did.
He
So
finally did.
he admitted, knowing the repercussions.
Yeah.
Then you sleep in the bed that you've made.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a shame. It's too bad. Um, I mean, his playing career was amazing. I mean, the only guy ever to make the All-Star team at 5 different positions,
Yeah.
which is
He's
crazy.
just a
I
baseball
mean,
player, right? Just a great baseball player.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of it
I see.
obviously due to longevity. I mean, he played a long time, but
Dude.
I got one of two guys ever to hit 4,000 hits. Doesn't happen every day.
Well, I would see him in Vegas every year because he would sign. So I'd go there for a conference, tech conference, and he would be at a sports memorabilia place in the Mandalay Shops. It's like between Mandalay Bay Hotel and Luxor. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Mandalay Shops or something like that. And I would see him in there all the time. Every year I'd go, and it would be, come get your something. You have to buy a picture or something,
Oh
and
yeah,
he would sign it for you. And there was nobody there.
that's sad.
And
That's
he's
too
sitting there
bad.
by himself, and nobody. And one year I was kind of, oh, that's P Rose, it's kind of cool. And I kind of like stopped it, took a picture through the window, just kind of like, hey, here's what's going on.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then I was like, there's nobody here. Like nobody was coming along, and it really felt kind of sad, to be honest.
Yeah,
It was like, here's a guy, he's what, 50 now, or it was at the time, probably 50 or 60. I'm not sure how old he was when he passed away, but this would have been probably 7-8 years ago.
Rogers just threw a pick,
Good.
and
Oh,
actually,
that's off his receiver. So that's not on Rodgers. That was a perfect pass. That was to
Still,
Devontae too, wasn't it? No.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he made the
You
tackle.
returned it to the one. You returned it to the
Yeah.
one. Anyway,
Well, good.
but
It doesn't matter as long as it's a pick. It's good. I'll take it.
yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, seeing Pete Rose not get into the Hall of Fame, I think it's too bad. I think it's too bad. And I think you're gonna, because he was definitely one of baseball's greats. And you're gonna see that,
Well,
unfortunately, for quite a few baseball players. I think the steroid era is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking
like Alex Rodriguez.
You're talking A-Rod, you're talking Bonds, you're talking Sosa, Mark McGwire. All those guys have the numbers to be in the Hall of Fame easily. But you never really know, did the steroid help them hit home runs or not? You don't know.
Yes. Well, okay. So what do we learn on this show, kids? Don't drink and drive, and don't bet on baseball.
That's right. That's right.
Always leave on a positive. We want to have it be an educational show as well.
And if you want to make the Hall, say no to drugs.
Say no to drugs. That's also true. And I guess if you're looking for a payday, become really good at baseball or football.
Yes. Yes. And get out and vote.
Yeah, get out.
No matter who you follow, get out and vote.
Get out and vote. Make your voice heard. Even if you don't like the choices, Look
That's
at the
right.
other things they're on about, because there's more than president. It's shocking to me the number of people who don't realize that, oh, we're not just voting for president. There's a bunch of other people that are voted within your local state, local government, which arguably have much more of an effect than the president does.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to this, right? You may not like the choices, but be thankful that you have one.
This is, I think it's the choice we
So
have, and yeah, that's what we have.
that's
You
right.
don't like it?
And
Run for office and be the change you want to be.
exactly. And don't forget about our friends in Asheville.
Yes, yeah, it's gonna be a while, but yeah, it's just it's just the worst time of year for Napa, because this is typically prime tourist season because of the fall colors, and
Yeah, no doubt. I
nothing
bet.
is open. So it's gonna be a rough year for a lot of businesses. Unfortunately, I think you're gonna see a lot of, even if they did survive the hurricane, they're probably gonna shut
Sure.
down, because they can't make it without the lack of tourism for the last couple months, and it's probably going to be a couple months for things stabilize. And now we're out of tourist season in a month anyway.
Well, and I'm sure, I mean, and I know we got to go, but, I'm sure a lot of those businesses were still coming back from COVID and all the stuff they
Yep.
lost from that. And, things were,
It
quote
was already
unquote,
not a
getting back
great
to
year to
normal.
begin with, too. So it was kind of
Yeah.
a slower year
So,
anyway. So yeah, it's
yeah,
unfortunate, but things happen and things will get rebuilt, and it's an opportunity for new things to come in. So stay positive.
life goes on, man.
Yep. All right.
All right, my
Let's
friend.
leave it there.
Good to see you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man.